Hey guys, what's up? Faramar here. Today I'm gonna be going over my Torghast guide. I'll be covering with you guys, the talent build that I'm running, kind of the strategy, maybe some tips and tricks for how I'm getting through Torghast. I still have not died in Torghast. I've gotten close a couple times, but still one-shotting all of the runs. So I'm gonna kind of lay it out for you guys, go over, how I'm doing it. Um, you can do it the same way I'm doing it. You can change it up, whatever works for you. Um, but let's go ahead and dive into it. So first off, let's talk about talents, okay? So in the level 15 row, I'm preferring to take Sabretooth. Um, Typically what I do in Torghast is I will stealth most of the way through the floors, so I don't really fight many mobs. I try and avoid as many mobs as I can. So Sabretooth is kind of just gives me the little bit extra burst, in order to get past the few mobs that I do run into and I do encounter. It also gives me a little bit more damage against the final bosses on each floor, as well as the final bosses for the tier, right? So I personally prefer that over Predator. If you don't want to stealth through each floor, you want to get as much Phantasm as possible, go for it. Play Predator, you're good. Level 25 row, this is all personal preference. I personally prefer Tiger Dash just for the speed boost. Wild Charge is also a good choice, and Renewal if you have trouble or you get into sticky situations. The level 30 row, I prefer Guardian Affinity. I think you can take Guardian or Resto Affinity and you'll be fine. I like the extra durability personally. I also like going into bear form more than I like going into caster form when it comes to having multiple mobs on me and trying to survive. I also feel like Resto Affinity is a little bit slower now that you have to apply, a regrowth or a rejuvenation up before you can Swiftman. So the immediate benefit of Resto Affinity, I think, has gone down since that change. Balance Affinity, I do not think is very good because there's a lot of sticky situations that you will get yourself into when it comes to Torghast, and you want to try and survive as well as possible, right? The level 35 row, I recommend Heart of the Wild. Mass Entanglement also has its merits. I think Mighty Bash is pretty lackluster when it comes to Torghast. There are some situations for it, but most of the time Maim can take care of those. So I would recommend Heart of the Wild just to kind of help, especially if you're in Guardian Affinity. Gives you a little bit more sustainability with your Frenzied Regen and things like that. Mass Entanglement, though, also very strong. So you can use mass entanglement for things like the mall rats before they scatter or run away and things like that. So definitely worth considering. Level 40 row, I take Soul of Forest simply for the synergy that it has with Primal Wrath. Whenever I am, having to AoE down mobs. I think Incarn is really good if you want the extra stealth and you're a horde. Otherwise, as Alliance, you should probably be Night Elf and you can just Shadow Meld in case you need to vanish in any sticky situation. Savage Roar I don't think is really worth even looking at for Torghast. Level 45 row, I recommend Primal Wrath. It gives you really good AoE. You already have really good single target, so the AoE, whenever you need to use it, it's there. Also, Son of Blood I think is kind of useless. Brutal Slash, if you're not going to take Primal Wrath, I would take Brutal Slash. Gives you a little bit more single target damage, but you are limited on your AoE, so you have to watch out with the size of mobs that you pull if you do not take Primal Wrath. The level 50 talents, you can pretty much take any three of these. I feel like Blood Talons is the worst of the three options just because it has the most ramp time. And you kind of want to get going quickly in Torghast. You want to, move through it as fast as possible. Feral Frenzy, I think, offers the single target burst as well as the AoE burst to give you combo points for Primal Wraths. And then Moment of Clarity, I think, is really strong as well, but you lack the single target. So Feral Frenzy is kind of the good in-between between Blood Talons and Moment of Clarity. You're not all in on AoE, but you're also not all in on single target. And it also has no ramp time, whereas Moment of Clarity, you're relying on procs. Blood Talons, you are also relying on building up your procs. So, now that that is covered, oh, also for stats, I recommend that you run versatility. Doesn't really matter what else, I would run crit versatility. just to give you the most damage mitigation, as well as our best offensive PvE. Our best offensive PvE stat, which is critical strike. So crit verse is probably what I would recommend for Torghast. Alright, let's go ahead and start talking about anima powers. So anima powers are basically your lifeline. They're how you're going to get through Torghast, and they're basically going to define if you're going to have a good run or a bad run. Fortunately for feral druids, there are plenty of anima powers in which will define a good run. I personally run Night Fae, so this is the anima power that I am banking on. I'm looking for as much as possible. Basically, anytime I see this anima power, I will pick it no matter what as a Night Fae. Next, we'll go ahead and look at the Kyrian anima power. So if you are playing Kyrian, I pretty much recommend that you get this every single time. If it comes up, gives you a ton of burst to kind of kill the end floor bosses, and it's just really good. It's extremely good for AoE situations as well if you get into a sticky situation, as it is a lower cooldown than the Night Fae ability. So going into Venthyr, right? So this is the anima power you basically want to always pick as a Venthyr, so that you can quickly kill the end floor bosses as well as the end boss of the entire stage. And yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. Just gives you more bonus, more damage for your buck, right? Alright, so there's two decent anima powers for Necrolord. I actually do not recommend picking either one of these over everything, but over most things, both of these are really good. So when faced with, you got three choices and one of these is the choice, the other two are pretty lackluster, and I'll go over extra anima powers as well throughout the rest of this video. But these are generally the two that you're going to be looking for the most as a Necrolord Feral Druid. So let's look at the Sylvatican Charm. So the Sylvatican Charm is really good as a Feral Druid because you're pretty much always able to cast a Regrowth on yourself. And Regrowth, obviously, the periodic heal, has a chance to put Ironbark on you, which gives you a lot of defensive stats basically for free. So this is one of the strongest anima powers and probably one of the best ones at keeping you alive. So I recommend going for this one whenever you get the chance, assuming the other offensive ones that I'm going for are not available. Alright, this is an offensive anima power. This is basically all enhanced single target damage, which really matters, especially for the strategy that I'm going to lay out for you towards the end of this video. And it will give you the most damage on all of the end floor bosses as well as the end stage bosses. So very much a very good anima power. Basically guaranteed pick almost every time, except if one of your covenant specific ones come above it. Alright, this is the next one. This is especially good for Night Fae, but it is also good for Necrolord, and then the other two just in general, because you can quickly get a Thrash, Rake, and Rip up on your target, and then your damage is increased by 50% on that target. So very strong effect. Probably the second most desirable to look at, but pretty close with the other ones. So you wanna grab this one pretty much any chance that you get. This one is also very good because you're pretty much opening out of stealth every single time you want to fight, right? So you just get that 25% increased damage. This is especially strong if you're a Night Fae Feral on the end bosses and the stage bosses, because you come out of stealth, you rake, you rip, and then you convoke. Boom, boom, boom. And you're dealing 25% damage basically the entire convoke cast. So very strong anima power as well. And this one comes up fairly often, so you could quickly be doing 50-75% bonus damage out of stealth. Alright, and then so we got some honorable mention anima powers here. So you get the Affinity Stones, which basically gives you all of your affinities. So you get Balance, you get Guardian, and you get Resto affinities. And then it doubles the effects as well. So Guardian, you get 6 attack range. Or sorry, Boomkin, you get 6 attack range. Guardian, you get, I believe, 12% damage reduction. And then Resto, you regenerate 6% of your health every 4 seconds. So The Affinity Stones is a very good one if you don't have any other options. Definitely worth picking. The Lycara's Bargain, this one's a little bit hard to use, but not too bad. Essentially, every time you damage something, you're going to get slower. The upside to this, right? So the 50% damage is really good, just overall 50% more damage. But the downside is you're going to be slowed. But, you know, as a druid, you can just shift the slow, so it's not that much of a detriment. Obviously, it's not as good as the other offensive ones, but this one is definitely worth picking up if you don't have any other better choice. And then you got the Oath of Druids. So this one basically gives you a permanent Heart of the Wild. So if you're Guardian Affinity, you always will have 2 Frenzied Regions, and you'll always be able to stack your Iron Furs. So it's very good for living and sustainability. Then you got Bottle of Moonshine. And this is a really good one if you don't really have any other choice. This will help you with end floor bosses and stage bosses. Especially if you're a Night Phase Druid, because Convoke will basically always cast a Moonfire. And even if it doesn't, you can quickly cast a Moonfire in cat form. And if you have the Tiger's Fury macro, you can actually cast a Moonfire and immediately go back into cat form without missing any of your auto attacks. It'll put you on global, but you won't miss any of your auto attacks. So, yeah, very, very strong macro if you have that. So, that's it for the anima powers and talents and the stats. Essentially, what I do for all of my runs is I will stealth. I will pick out the correct anima powers. I will stealth. I will take as much free anima or free phantasm as possible in order to afford strong animas whenever you get to the vendor guy on the 3rd floors or whatnot. Because you don't want to pass up on all the Phantasm. Just avoid the mobs that you think you have a chance at dying. Take any mob that you think you're gonna be able to kill very easily, and kind of just go from there, right? You can basically stealth. If you stealth and kill only the mobs that can see stealth all the way to the end of each floor, you'll be fine. Feral is extremely strong as long as you're doing the mechanics and you're avoiding, you know, any negative effects, things like that. You're gonna do fine. So that's essentially how I do it. It's very simple. I'm actually going to go ahead and upload a couple videos that I did this week, earlier today actually. One shot the level 3 floors for both upper and lower. And I will post those videos coming up so that you guys can kind of get a visual of how I do it. Also, you can always see me do these things live on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Faramar if you're interested. If you have any questions or I didn't cover anything, or you know you just you didn't understand something that I said, or you just have feedback in general, please let me know down below in the comments. And yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate y'all watching, and have a good one.